And now for a sad story and a sad situation. What does it mean to be in the family of a witch? Well, we have some interesting understandings and some beginnings of some very exciting diagrams that Fa Versada sets out, and I'll explain them as we go along here, about how a witch and a witch's family operate. So she starts describing how there's this lore about two witch families that intermarried, the Ribals and the Kokans. They marry, and that caused their witch set to be increased. So if two witch families marry, then there's more witches, and they have more power that they can use to draw from others. Gives them more strength to suck up more vital energy because they're sort of exponentially powerful the more witches they have together. We'll see that all witch families are thought to have the same witch dynamic. They're headed by the head of the household, who's the main witch. The one would argue if the families go together, who would be the main witch? Probably just the two heads. Who knows? It's hard to say. All people in the witchcraft family, all the children are exposed to the magic books. Remember, these are not books about magic or books of magic. They look at the magic books, and that gives them the witchcraft power. So how do children react and how do children adapt to being in a witch family? Well, we have some of these situations. Let's take a look. Now, in the first one, children basically become witches, like father, like son. The child reads the book, they get into it, or maybe they get it, and they get really into it. In one schema, they get really into it, like right here. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that clearly. Sorry, I got my notes got a little screwy. All right, the children become witches. Look at this witch set where you have father and son. Here, the father and son work together against two bewitched sets. Their force is increased by working together. This is where it's like father, like son. The witch children cast witchery out and pull from all sorts of targets that enhance the witch set, the household of the witch. The child and the witch could even align to afflict specific targets, making the witch power that much stronger. So imagine if they were both aligned with the same set. The child actually enhances the witch against multiple targets. Now, you could also see that they'd read the book and they don't care. And this diagram does two things. One, it could show when the father and the son both enhance each other and go after the same set. What I think is really interesting is, what if the son doesn't care, doesn't want to be a witch, chooses not to be a witch? Well, they still are. And what can happen is the child who is indifferent to witchery can still afflict people and drain people because the father is a conduit through the child, whether the child wants to be or not. Now, the saddest state of affairs that we're going to read about is if a child refuses to become a part of the witch set. If they say, I'm not going to be a witch, I'm going to destroy the magic books. And we read about this. In this sense, the rebellious child would be rejected from the family, but they're still bewitched. They can't leave the witchery behind. And in that sense, the child is bewitched by the father, but that child is doomed. That child who refuses to read the books and rejects the witch role is bewitched unto their own destruction. The rebellious child is rejected from the family, but then is bewitched by the witch parent. The rebel doesn't read the witch book, so they have no magical force, and they can't turn to a non-witcher because, after all, they can't escape their family in the first place. The only certainty here is death, and this is the sad life of Pierre Cocon. Pierre Cocon is the son of a witch who was said to have rejected the family business and threatened to burn the books. He degenerates over time into drunkenness, beating his family, and in his time is killed, likely drunk, in a car accident. Car accidents are commonly attributed to witchcraft, we see, because it was a common affliction that seemed somewhat random. And in fact, Fa Versada's own enunciation is due to a number of car wrecks. So, it was thought among Jean Babon's family, who constantly gossiped, that Pierre must die. That's his fate, rejecting the witches. He's afflicted by the witches. Fa Versada actually at one point wants to speak with his son, Pierre. In fact, when she proposes talking to the witch or the son, everybody says there's no way, for it's too dangerous. So even here, she's like, okay, I've got people, but I want to talk to somebody who's actually a witch. And nobody will let her do it. They're like, oh no, you'll be completely destroyed. That's a suicidal thing. But let's be clear, Pierre sucks. He would come home drunk and beat his children, who had finally been taken away by the assistance publique. After that, he had not stopped drinking until his fatal accident. His wife had immediately consoled herself with another man and had taken her children, including the Negro child, of whom one could now say, or one could see, that was not as black as all that. So there's this thought that his wife had been cheating on him and had a child with a man of another race, and that's a big disgrace around the farm. So hearing about all these dynamics in the lives of the boy, Favrasada is thoroughly caught. She can't escape it. His death does seem inevitable in this witchcraft system. So she sets out a number of hypotheses. While the family are held to be witches and are seen to be strong and jealous, there's no chance anybody actually performed anything to bewitch their victims. Pierre Coquin is important because he links to the witch sets, suggesting the compound power of witches. The local paper said it was just a sad death of a drunken guy, but the witch gossip was that it was an illustration of his parents' power. Finally, Jean Babon and his family say that the father always hated the son from his very youth. Therefore, this death was the result of a sad family drama that rejected this poor young guy from the very beginning. And what does social death do? And family death do? Sometimes it can lead to real death. All right, take a break. I'll see you in a second.